Some groups were still dealing with them, but none of them were successful. The only group that seemed to be doing well was the group led by Teacher Dell. He had taken his large shield with him and was holding it up with his back against the mountain wall. With only one possible angle of attack, Dell and a few other students were able to block most of the incoming attacks from the plants, and since the plants weren't able to move from their original position, at most, the group had to block attacks from 3 incoming plant beasts. "Let's get over there," she shouted. "It's the safest place. With my ability, we can make it." At this point, she was tugging on Peter's uniform, but he stayed there, still looking at one of the plants. "If Quinn is somewhere else, then I need to go with him," Peter replied. She shouted in anger, "If you want to die, then go die yourself." With a single step, Sia cried out. She turned around and suddenly realized that everything around her was pitch black. Then, a few seconds later, she could feel herself falling. The whole group had now been swallowed by different beet plants. Vex and Quinn, Layla and Vorden, and finally, Peter and Sia. A few of the other students had been swallowed. A few were also knocked off the side of the cliff, while the majority somehow managed to make it near Dell, even though they felt weak. With Dell mostly blocking the plant beasts, the students were able to use their attacks to fight against them. They continued fighting till the rain finally stopped. The moment the rain stopped, all the beasts went into hibernation. They returned underground and turned into beautiful stalks of purple grasses once more. Amazingly, soil started to form over the purple grasses, and in the blink of an eye, the mountain returned to its original state. It was as if nothing had happened. "Is it over?" a student asked, huffing and panting. He felt as if he would collapse from exhaustion at any moment. "I think so," Dell replied. "I think these beasts reacted to the rain. They seemed to appear and disappear at the same time as the rain appeared and vanished. Luckily for us, in a place like this, the downpour might be strong, but it doesn't last for long. However, we don't know when the next downpour will be." "What should we do now, and what about the others?" another asked. Dell looked around, and he could see there wasn't much blood. Also, during his studies, he discovered that plant-type beasts weren't mostly carnivores. The fact that these plants probably didn't have the acid necessary to digest meat meant that the students were still probably alive. "I hate to say this, but they're probably already dead," Dell lied. "It's best if we head back down to where we were. If we carry on going upward, then there might be even more dangerous beasts." Some of the students were annoyed by Dell's suggestion. They had made this suggestion earlier and even said the same thing to Dell, informing him about the possible danger up ahead. Still, he decided to progress anyway, and now he was saying traveling upwards was a bad idea. Before heading back down the slope, a student spotted another person walking up. As they saw who it was, a huge smile appeared on their faces. "Sergeant Leo!" the student shouted. Even Dell was delighted. There wasn't much that needed to be said, as Leo agreed that he would take them back to the shelter for now. But before doing so, Leo asked the other students to investigate the area. Just as the students were about to head down the slope, Leo started to walk over to a strange object. A certain item was giving off energy, similar to that of a beast weapon. He had arrived by the wall of the mountain and picked up the cold, solid object. "Do you mind telling me what it looks like?" Leo asked Dell, who wouldn't leave his side. "It appears to be some type of metal flask, although it has some strange design on it. It looks like a beast's head with fangs. Maybe it's one of the items that the students dropped during the struggle," Dell answered. "I'm wondering, what is so important that it needs to be kept in a special type of beast equipment?" Leo thought to himself. The last thing Quinn could remember was Layla shouting his name. Then, in a blink of an eye, they were swallowed. What came afterwards was darkness. His body was continuously being swirled around, throwing him off balance, and it didn't give him a moment to balance himself, nor use any of his abilities. Everything was happening so quickly, but during the whole process, he didn't feel any pain. When he finally reached the bottom, Quinn felt his body continuously sinking. It felt like he had been dropped into a watery quagmire. He tried moving his hands, using all the strength he could muster, but it seemed ineffective. If anything, it was making him sink quicker. His legs were the first thing to pass through, and as they did, he felt a free range of motion. They weren't hitting or placed against anything, but they felt like he was in midair, kicking them back and forth. Still, he was unable to feel anything. "If the plant swallowed me and now I'm falling, doesn't that mean I'm falling into another part of the mountain or underneath the planet?" Quinn thought. The height of his fall worried him the most. His arms had now gone through the strange substance, and now only the top of his head remained. Just like with his legs, his hands were able to move freely, but now he started worrying. If Quinn was right, then once his head would fall through, his whole body would be falling. He was strong, and he had a sturdy body as a vampire, but what was he falling into? Lava? Spikes? Or into a pit of beasts? His abilities couldn't possibly save him from that. Quinn's mind madly spun as he thought about his next course of action. He activated his shadow ability and covered his body thinly. It worked and slowed down the sinking process. But this was a mere stopgap, not a solution to the problem. But of course, this stopgap should give him enough time to think. Suddenly, a voice reverberated out of nowhere. "What the hell is this?" a boy yelled as his voice echoed out. "It can't be. Is that Fex's voice?" Quinn thought. The space was narrow, and if Fex was coming from above, it meant that there was only one place where Fex could land. Bang! The force and Fex's weight struck Quinn's head and managed to push him through the last bit of strange substance. As Quinn's body floated through the air, he thought back to how the last thing he ever saw might have just been Fex's backside knocking him down as he fell to his... "That!" Quinn shouted. Looking around him, even though he was in the dark, his pupils widened enough, letting in more light. He could see nearly just as well as outside. His guess seemed right, and he was falling from the ceiling. The good news was there didn't seem to be anything below that would do much damage. The bad news was he was falling from about 20 meters in height, and the ground was coming closer to him as the seconds went by. All he could do was brace himself for impact as he curled up into a ball. At the same time, a shield of shadow was created in front of him. The shadow was the first part to touch the ground, and Quinn followed shortly. It had worked. The shadow had slowed down the momentum of his fall. Quinn went inside and fused with the shadow. "You are useful," Quinn said as he took the shadow away, but at that moment. The speed had returned, and Quinn's body was slammed into the ground as hard as he would have if he hadn't used the shadow. In his haste, Quinn had forgotten that the shadow didn't actually slow things down, but only slowed down the time while he was touching the shadow. Once he traveled through the shadow, or once it was taken away, the object would continue to travel at the speed it previously did, before passing through the shadow or being one with it. Covered in rubble from the walls of the cave, Quinn stood up and discovered that not a lot of damage was done to him. He felt sore in all sorts of places, but his body was sturdier than before. It also didn't seem like any of his bones had broken from the fall. Just then, he could see Fex falling through the sky nearly at the same spot. "Quinn, catch me!" Fex shouted.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.